to this, the third episode of our little survival series using the Create mod on a rather dull and grey day. Bad weather aside though, I have been just having a little bit of a think about what we're going to be doing with our world today, and there are two things that really do come to mind. Number one, I have got to get my food situation sorted out. At the moment I am surviving on dried kelp, and that is not exactly very much fun. So we need to get something going today where we can get some crops going, maybe a little bit of wheat, some carrots, potatoes, that usual stuff, so that we can start breeding up animals a little bit more easier at the very least. And the other thing I want to take a little look at is I've been down in the iron farm just to see how things are going down there. And I've started digging out a little bit of a path so that we've got a way of getting down here, and we need to get some kind of storage as well. So I've just dug out a little bit of an area. This is where we're going to have a bit of a dock for where people are loading things maybe into the iron farm, and then just here we're going to make some kind of storage building. To that end though, I have been thinking a little bit about block pallets of what we're using around here. So back here in our main buildings, of course, we have got an awful lot of oak and spruce and little bits and pieces of dark oak around here, and mostly stone and cobblestone though. This is supposed to be the areas where it does get flooded occasionally, but not that much. On the other hand, down by the coast, presumably if the water changes that much, it must be a lot more prone to this flooding, and so I think we're going to use some tuff down here. It does mean we'll probably have to change out these blocks at some point, and we could certainly do with getting some mossy cobble and that sort of thing in there, but for now, this sort of tuff colour is looking far more grungy and more like it might get waterlogged every now and again. So let's just build up a little bit here, and we'll just see how things are going to be looking. So we'll grab some bricks. We'll grab something smoother than that. We'll have some of the cut tuff as well. I'll just have a little look at how these guys are together. They already look kind of rough and ready around the outsides. So I think what we'll do is I'm just going to build up a little bit of a facade here, just so we can have a look at how some buildings might start looking. Okay, so having a little look here, this is how we are with our tuff at the moment. I'm trying to keep our cobbly bits down at the bottom, just because it's where it looks like the stone is really, really rough. So if there's going to be any moss or anything like that growing in this area, that's where it's going to be. We've got our window places, and then the obvious place for a door is going to be just there. There we go, and that looks like a fairly reasonable place, although it is obviously butting right up against this wall just here. So if I push that one back a little bit, let's see if that looks a little bit more sensible. Actually, I'm going to keep that overhang, just because, again, these buildings are not supposed to be in the best of shape. Maybe that building used to be much bigger than it was, and they've cut away at this side for some reason. We'll take out a little bit of that as well, and just see how we are looking. And that's going to be fine. That can be our entrance into our tiny little storage room that we're going to make. And considering its main job is going to be storing flint for us, just because that is merrily building up in our iron farm, we're going more flint than anything else. We're going to have somewhere we can put it, and this is going to be nice and convenient. But for now though, let me do just a little bit more work on this building and take it around the side, and then we'll see if it's looking like something we want to keep in this world. Okay, so tiny little bit of progress done. We've gone around the corner, as you can see. We've popped in some little windows just so that we can get some light going on in there. But one thing which I forgot about with this is that this is a really tall hill. It goes up quite a long way. I mean, theoretically, it goes right the way up to here. And I don't necessarily want this part of the stone building to be that tall. So what I need to do is I'm going to cap it off, I think, with a little bit of these tough pillars just going around the top, just to make it look like this is where the building naturally came to the end, and then we'll be able to put something a bit different here, perhaps one of the wooden buildings or something. But if we just go around here, we'll go there and then we'll just have a little look and see how that looks. Okay, we've got a slightly unnaturally large gap there, but that's fine. We'll put a little roof there or something. But at least it does look like that is where the building was built up to originally. Although I'm wondering now if that would look better coming down here. Let's have a little look. And yes, I am still on stone tools. I'll get some better ones eventually. For now though, that's definitely not how that wants to go. How does that look? Oh there, yeah, that looks a little bit better. That can stay like that for now at least. I might do the same on the other side. I haven't continued the building this way because I'm thinking curling staircase is going to go around there, up to the top of the buildings, back up to the top of that hill. And for now, we'll just finish off those pillars across the top and then call this one roughly worked out where it's going to be. There we go. And now I just need to flatten this off and then make it look a little bit prettier than this. Okay, so we are certainly flatter, although we may not necessarily be any prettier. I've just done dirt covering over this building because right now I don't really know what's going to go here. If I'm just going to put another building on here that's going to match the same width as these walls, there's absolutely no point filling this in with stone or something that's going to take a long time to dig out. So for now, dirt will do until I have made my mind up. In the meantime, we have, of course, still got our little staircase down here, which I think is probably going to be a wooden one and coming down onto a wooden deck down at the bottom. But if they had a wooden deck, they'd very likely want to have a stone edge going around this island just to give it a little bit of protection from all this water that's around. And I have also just put this little staircase in, which is going to be going around the other side. I haven't bothered putting a window on the side of this building just there. I don't think there's enough space, really. But at least now it is vaguely mapped out. I just need to dig it out a little bit inside as well so that we can get some storage in there. But leave it with me. I'm going to do a little bit of work around here just to pretty things up a little bit more so that we can call this part of the world done. And I'll come back to you once I've got something I'm vaguely happy with. Okie dokie. Right, so though, I think I have finally reached the point where I am happy. I've just run out of food. Again, we really need to get that sorted out. But I've been down here and I've built a little bit of a dock, as you can see. So, like everything else, it's in a bit of a state now. We've got lots of plants growing through the wood. There was some old stock that maybe people were selling off, and it's all sort of falling about the place, and it's looking a little bit like rack and ruin by now. I've also put in this little sort of covered walkway that you can see here. You remember we had the problem where we've got this big gap up at the top above these windows because the building was a bit taller than I originally wanted it to be. Well, I thought this little covered walkway would at least make that look like it was there for a reason, even if, just like everything else, it's now falling to pieces. But inside our little storage room, we have now got a little bit of space as well, so even if all I'm going to be storing in here is odds and sods and bits and pieces of flilt, anything else that I might need when I come down this end of the world, it's not like this room will get used a lot, but still, it's a little bit prettier than it was. Either way though, this little area is now okay, and I think it's looking fairly well done. We'll just need to decide what building we're going to put up on the top there. It'll probably be some sort of residential building, but you never know, it might turn out to be a farm. For now though, it is definitely time to crack on with the main part of this episode, and that is that I have got to get my food situation sorted out. Living on rotten flesh and dried kelp is certainly not doing me any good, because the saturation just goes down so quickly, it is supremely frustrating. And so let's go and build a nice big farm and get some contraptions inside it to get it working. There you go, two little greenhouses side by side, ripe and ready to have some crops planted into them. You can see I have put them right next to our little starter shack, so they're going to be able to link up nicely and they should work together as the same sort of style. One thing which you will have noticed, I'm sure, is that these are not quite as broken down as the original buildings were. I did try breaking up the glass a little bit more than it was, but it stopped looking like a greenhouse and started just looking like a pile. But what I'll do is I'll just have a little bit of a run up. You can see where I've cannoned this in. We need to obviously do a bit of work here because things aren't quite matching up. But if we go in, this is the inside of our little greenhouses. And you see I have left space here ready for where we can put some harvesters in. But if we then come back outside and we have a little run around, we go underneath this building just so that we can see what's going on down there. Just dig my way through. You'll see that I've already got a little bit of works going on down here. So I've got a little water wheel that is already set up. And I have changed the speed on this one twice to make it slower. So it's going from the water wheel to a small wheel, then onto a large one, and that is going to decrease our speed to a half of what it would be each time. So this is now going twice as slow as it usually would do, and that is the same on the other side. This one is the same as well. I've also got a little portable storage interface, and for now I'm just going to collect up my crops in these two little chests that you can see here. Not exactly the most convenient of things, but until I get a central storage linked up, this will be absolutely fine. But for now though, let's have a little bit of a think of what we need in order to get something that can harvest these crops for us. And the most obvious answer to that is going to be this, the mechanical harvester, which has the ability to cut down crops and then also replant them as well, as long as it's got access to some seeds. So if we just come out here though, and we'll come down to this little patch of grass that we've got here, this will be plenty of space for us to build something. These are going to be powered from water wheels, exactly the same as it would be inside the greenhouse. And all you need to do is pop your water wheel down, just like that, and then give it some water so that it's actually able to run. I should have some building blocks on me. Here we go. And if we pop our water there we go. That is our little water wheel being powered now, and it really doesn't matter which direction it's going in. On top of that, we can then place a mechanical bearing, and this is the opposite to a windmill. So this has to be powered itself. It has to have something rotating to make it turn around. It cannot produce power like a windmill can. It has to be being made to turn in itself. What we can do then, though, is if you have a look on top of this, it has got this little sticky patch. And if I put a block on there and then we activate this bearing, it'll start turning around, just like that. The only thing that I would say about this, though, is that because that sticky dot is only one, when I put down more on the side of it, it's not going to turn those ones as well just yet. We need to stick all of this together in order for that to happen. Although, one way to get around that, if I just remove these, is to use these linear chassis. They will automatically attach to each other just like that. So that now when I activate my bearing, everything is going to turn. But these have got a disadvantage, which is that while they will be able to push things along for you, I can't stick anything to them yet, because I have got a lack of glue. And so, before it gets dark and I start getting swamped by skeletons, let's run back upstairs and we'll make ourselves some super glue so that we can start sticking stuff to our contraption. So what do we need in order to make glue? Well, good old JEI is going to be able to tell us. So if I come over here and we type in super, not soup, and we have a look at our super glue. Okay, so we need iron sheet, that's easy enough. We're going to need a slime ball, that's a bit more of a problem. I've had wandering traders around trying to sell them to me, but I haven't got any emeralds. And that's going to be our main issue because I haven't found any slime neither. But if we click on the slime ball, it'll tell us how we can make that as well. So we can see break down a slime block, that's of absolutely no use to me. But here we have got lime dye plus dough is going to make us a slime ball. Lime dye, easy enough. I need to get hold of green dye and white dye. Although, of course, I don't have any cactus, so how do I make green dye again? Well, I don't have crushing wheels. That involves smelting up a cactus. But if I come into milling over here, aha, we have got ferns which we can crush down into green dye. That's fine, I can easily get hold of a fern or two. And if you don't have any ferns around you, let's say you live in a savanna or something like that, then you can always break down poppies instead. Just bear in mind, it is a very low chance. You need an awful lot of poppies to do this. But this does now mean at least that we know we can mill down our fern to get some green dye. We can get hold of white dye easily enough as well, just because that can come from bones. So that's going to be our lime dye sorted. And then the only other thing we need is some dough. which again, easy enough. Water bucket, we can get hold of that. Wheat flour is just made by crushing down a single piece of wheat to get our flour. So we can make our super glue. Let's have a little go at that one. So we know that we're going to be needing a mill, so if we come up here I can grab a millstone. I don't really want to start setting up entire contraptions to get things running. I literally just have a couple of bits that I want to mill. So I'm going to use a crank if I've got one. Yes, I have. And I'm going to use a cogwheel. So instead, what we can do is we can pop down our mill. Next to that, we can then place a little tiny cog. And then on that, we can place our hand crank. And now when we turn it, the mill is being used as well, see? So we need to have our green dye first. So if I come in here, I know I've got a fern because I collected one, and I'm also going to need some wheat as well. So coming back over to our little mill, I'm just going to throw my fern in there. You see that it has disappeared, so it has definitely gone inside that mill, and now when I turn this crank, there should be particles around the outside of the mill. There we go, so it's got some little particles coming off it. It didn't take it very long at all. It should have ground down our mill, and when I right click, there we go. I've got 3 pieces of green dye from that. And we can do the same thing as well with our wheat. Just throw it in. That'll do. And then we'll grind that down. Nice yellow particles so that we know that it is working. And we'll just wait until those particles have all disappeared, and then we'll know that it is completely done. There we go. And we have got 6 pieces of wheat flour. So we can break these ones down now. We don't need that anymore. There we go. And of course I also don't have a water bucket, so I'll just run out and grab one. And in fact, if we just wait here, I think we should be able to blend these ones together. Yeah, there we go. So there's 1 piece of dough for us, and we can just grab my bucket back again. Just do this each time just until we've got a couple pieces of dough so we can make a couple of slime balls. That'll do nicely. So we'll run back up again. Avoiding wherever that Enderman went because I do not have any armor at the moment and I don't particularly want to fight with him. So we'll just scurry back inside where we're safe. Right, so here we are. We've got our dough. We now need to get our lime dye. Hopefully I've got a bone hanging around. In fact, I've got bone meal, even better. We'll make up a couple bits of white dye. Add that to our green dye. There is our slime. There is our lime dye, sorry. And then hopefully, U plus U, and that's going to give us our slime balls. There we go. So now the last thing we need to do in order to make our super glue is we just need to break down 1 little iron ingot into some nuggets. And it should be nugget, sheet, and 2 slime balls. There we go, we have got our super glue. Right, now we can go and start sticking bits and pieces to our contraption. Okay, so here we are now, back with our little harvester, or our little partially built harvester, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to take down these chassis. I don't plan on using these for this build, so I'll just remove those. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to build out a little arm using these spruce planks. There we go. And now from this point, our little harvester needs to have 3 more components in order for it to be fully automatic. So just checking which way it's turning again. It's going to be turning that way. That's fine. So what I need is I need to put my little harvesters in a row along this side, just like that. And what we will find now is that when it all turns around, it will push those as well, and they will be able to harvest for us. We also need to have a chest somewhere on our contraption, just because we need to be able to store seeds and things like that, or anything that gets harvested before it gets sort of either dispensed into our storage or replanted. So I'm going to pop my little chest down just there, why not? And this is where the need for the glue becomes apparent, because when I turn this, it doesn't turn around the chest as well. So this stuff does all need to be glued together in order for it to work. But the only other thing we need then is a portable storage interface, and I am going to place that just here on the end. Not that way around though, I need it facing down, so I won't crouch. There we go, that's a little bit better. And now what I can do is I can take my glue, I can come over to this part of the arm of our contraption, and if I click on it, you can see it has this sort of squidgy mark that gets made and it says first place set. I can then go up there, or I can move my way across, and you can see it's all getting put into this sort of green bounding box. So if I right click again just there, everything within there has now been stuck together. I can add to that our chest if I right click on that one as well. I can just add it on to this design as well. We can go through until everything is completely attached in. You need to get added on as well. And you'll notice that every time you add a little bit to it, you get these sort of bounding boxes that get added onto it. And what you want to end up with is everything within the same box. If I now right click on here, everything turns around in one go. You can see our mechanical harvesters are getting pushed around. It's also twizzling the chest around, and everything is now able to work fully automatically. And I really need to go and sleep. Let me just get myself back inside. And there you have it though. That is the entirety of what you need in order to set up a little harvester. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild this a couple of times inside the greenhouse, and we'll be able to start harvesting some crops. Remembering in this case, I do already have my mechanical bearings, I just need the arm parts. And there we have it though, so that is both of our nice little harvesters input, and I've filled up with what seeds I have available to me. I've got beetroots and potatoes at the moment. All I am lacking is carrots. I need to kill a few more zombies. But you can see I have laid things out in a sort of hodgepodge sort of pattern. Nothing is in any particular order, and I've dotted a few plants around as well, just to make it look like it's perhaps a little bit weedy in here as well. After all, nothing in this place seems to be working quite as well as it should be. One thing you will note as well is that these little arms that I've created with these mechanical harvesters, they don't go right to the very edge, and I've done that on purpose. Yes, it means I'll get slightly fewer crops, but it also means that the plants around the edge are going to be able to grow right up like this, and so it'll look better from outside, so it's a purely aesthetic choice. I just want it to not look like it's completely bare in here, it'll look like there are some tall plants as well. Overall though, I am happy with how these little greenhouses are looking, and they should be able to start fixing my food problem nice and quickly. All I need to do now is perhaps increase the number of animals that are around. I could do with getting some cows, for example. But I am certainly happy with how they are looking, and I'm also happy with our little dock that we made down the other side as well. And so, I think I'm going to call this episode here. I think we've done quite a bit today. We've got quite a lot done looking around the place, even if, yeah, that building is definitely floating. That's something that needs to happen there. I will build down that wall so that it looks like it's a little bit more complete. And I'll do a little bit of work outside in this courtyard as well, just to pretty things up a bit before next time. Anywho though, I hope you've enjoyed this little episode on this survival world. Happy Minecrafting everyone, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye!